Drinking alcohol, smoking, and drug use are harmful to health.
My name is Alex, and if you're reading this, it's because I need someone to believe me. This isn't some made-up creepypasta or urban legend. It's what happened to me last summer. I swear on everything I hold dear. Every word is true. It started innocently enough, with a thrift store find that I thought was a steal. But it ended with me questioning my sanity, my safety, and whether the dead really stay buried. Let me take you through it, step by step, so you understand why I can never pick up a camera again. It was a sweltering July afternoon in 2024 when I wandered into that dusty thrift shop on the outskirts of my small town in upstate New York. The place was called Forgotten Finds, crammed with old furniture, mismatched china, and shelves of forgotten gadgets. I'm a photography enthusiast. Nothing professional, just a hobbyist with a knack for urban exploration. I love sneaking into abandoned buildings, capturing the decay and the stories they hold. Trespassing? Yeah, it's illegal. But the thrill of it, the adrenaline rush of being where you're not supposed to be, it's addictive. Little did I know, this camera would turn that addiction into a nightmare. Tucked away in a bin of old electronics, I spotted it. A vintage Polaroid SX70, the kind from the 70s with the folding design and instant film ejection. It looked pristine, like it had barely been used. The price tag said $15, bargain of the century. I haggled it down to $10, loaded it with a fresh pack of film I had in my bag, I'm always prepared, and snapped a test shot of the shop's cluttered counter. The photo whirred out, developing in my hand. Clear as day, jars of buttons, a faded lamp, no issues. I grinned like an idiot and took it home. That evening, in my cramped apartment, I tested it more thoroughly. I photographed my living room, bookshelves sagging under horror novels, my cat curled on the couch. The photo developed normally at first, but as the colors sharpened, I noticed something odd. In the corner, behind the couch, there was a faint smudge, like a shadow where there shouldn't be one. I squinted, held it under the lamp. It looked vaguely humanoid, blurred, as if someone had been standing there, but moved too fast for the shutter. But I was alone. My cat hadn't stirred. I chalked it up to a film defect. Old cameras, right? I shook it off and went to bed. The next day, the itch to explore hit me hard. There's an old asylum about 20 miles out of town, Blackwood Sanitarium, abandoned since the 80s after a fire killed dozens of patients. It's fenced off, no trespassing signs everywhere. But urban explorers like me know the weak spots in the chain link. I'd been there once before with friends, but never alone. With my new Polaroid slung around my neck, I figured it'd be perfect for some eerie shots. The instant development meant I could see my compositions right away. No waiting for a darkroom. I parked my car a mile away, hiked through the woods, and slipped under the fence. The air was thick with the smell of rot and mildew. Vines choked the brick walls, windows shattered like jagged teeth. I started in the main hall, where the reception desk still stood, covered in graffiti. Snap, photo of the desk. It ejected, and I watched it develop as I moved deeper. At first, just the desk, papers scattered like forgotten confessions. But then, in the background, near a doorway, that smudge again. Taller this time, more defined. Arms, legs. It looked like a person hunched over, watching. My heart skipped. I glanced back. No one there. The asylum was silent, except for the drip of water, somewhere distant. Shrugging it off as paranoia, trespassing does that to you. I pressed on. Down a hallway lined with patient rooms, doors hanging off hinges. I peeked into one. Rusted bed frames, restraints still bolted to them. Stories say the staff here were brutal, experimenting on the mentally ill. Snap, photo of the bed, developing. And there it was. Not a smudge, a figure. Shadowy, translucent, standing at the foot of the bed. Its head tilted unnaturally, like it was listening. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Was the camera faulty? Some lens flare trick? But the figure wasn't in the room when I took the shot. I checked the viewfinder again. Empty. Curiosity overrode fear. I had to know more. I ventured into the basement where the fire had started. The stairs creaked under my weight, and the air grew heavier, laced with charred wood. Flashlight in one hand, camera in the other. The boiler room was a maze of pipes and ash. Snap. Photo of the burned-out furnace. As it developed, my hands shook. The figure was clearer now. A woman, I think, in a tattered gown, skin blackened, mouth open in a silent scream. She wasn't there when I pressed the shutter, but in the photo, she was reaching out, fingers elongated like claws. Panic set in. I backed away, heart pounding. Was this some hallucination? Mold spores making me see things. But the photo was real, tangible. I stuffed it in my pocket and hurried upstairs. But the asylum felt different now. Alive. Doors I swore were open were now shut. Footsteps echoed, faint but unmistakable, like bare feet on tile. I ran for the exit, scrambling under the fence, not stopping until I was back in my car. At home, I laid out the photos on my table. Each one had a figure, growing more distinct. In the first, a blur. In the basement shot, almost solid. And they all seemed to be looking at the camera, at me. I researched the camera online, digging through forums. Turns out, it might have belonged to a photographer named Elias Crow, who disappeared in the 70s. He was obsessed with the supernatural, claimed his Polaroid captured spirits. His last known location? Blackwood Sanitarium. He'd trespassed there, taking photos for a book on hauntings. They found his camera, but not him. The thrift store must have gotten it from an estate sale or something. I felt sick. Had I awakened something? I should have destroyed the camera then. Burned it, smashed it. But no, the explorer in me, the idiot, wanted proof. If it captured ghosts, imagine the fame. The next night, I couldn't sleep. The images tormented my dreams, figures murmuring, creeping closer. I decided to return. Not to Blackwood, that was madness, but to another place. A deserted farmhouse on the outskirts of town, whispered to be the scene of a family slaughter in the 50s. Father lost his mind, butchered his wife and kids with an axe. No trespassing, naturally, but the locks were corroded. I arrived at twilight, the sun spilling crimson over the fields. The house slumped like a cadaver, windows shuttered. I pried one open and slipped inside. Dust particles swirled in my flashlight's glow. The living room, peeling wallpaper, a toppled chair. Click, photo, developing. A child-sized shadow in the corner, crouched, head bowed. I swallowed hard and moved to the kitchen. Bloodstains, or just rust. Click. The photo revealed a woman, throat gashed, standing behind where I'd been. Her eyes, God, her eyes, fixed on the lens, burning with fury. Upstairs, the bedrooms. The master, a stained mattress, walls scratched with what looked like fingernails. Snap. The figure this time was the father, axe in hand, mid-swing, but not at his family, at the camera, at me. I heard it then, a creak on the stairs, not the house settling, steps deliberate. I froze, listening, whispering, too soft to make out. I bolted for the window, but the door slammed shut behind me. No wind. The air was still. I yanked it open, heart in my throat, and ran down the hall. In the child's room, toys scattered like bones. I didn't mean to take another photo, but my finger slipped on the shutter. Snap. The film ejected as I fled. Outside, gasping in the cool night air, I looked at it. The whole family, shadowy but vivid, crowded around the bed. And in the foreground, closer than ever, a new figure. Me? No. Elias Crow. I recognized him from old photos online. Pale, emaciated, with hollow eyes. He was pointing at the camera, mouthing words I couldn't read. That night, back home, the whispers started for real. Not in my head, from the photos. Faint at first, like static, but growing. "Trespasser," they hissed. "Join us." I locked the photos in a drawer, but it didn't help. Shadows moved in my peripheral vision. My cat hissed at empty corners. I tried to sell the camera online, but every listing glitched, photos uploading with those figures embedded. Desperation drove me to the ultimate stupidity. I had to confront it, return to Blackwood, where it began. Maybe destroy the camera there, break the cycle. I went at midnight, armed with a hammer. Slipped under the fence, the asylum looming like a tomb. The main hall felt colder, oppressive. I set the camera on the desk, raised the hammer. But before I could swing, a hand, cold, real, grabbed my wrist. I spun, flashlight beam catching a glimpse. A burned woman, eyes milky white. I screamed, wrenching free, and ran blind into the depths. Corridors twisted, doors slamming. Figures emerged from the walls, shadowy at first, then solid. Patients in gowns, faces contorted in agony. The massacre family, blood dripping. Elias Crow, leading them, his voice a rasp. "You saw us. Now we see you." I don't know how I escaped. Tripped over roots, crawled under the fence, drove home with hands shaking. The camera? I left it there. But the photos, they followed. New ones appeared in my apartment, developing on their own. Me sleeping, with shadows leaning over. Me eating, with hands reaching from under the table. It's been months. I don't trespass anymore. Can't even leave my house without feeling watched. The figures are in every reflection now, not just photos, closer each time. If you find a Polaroid at a thrift store, leave it. Some things are meant to stay forgotten. And if you hear whispers, run. I think they're here now. Wait, there's a shadow in the corner. Not mine. God help me.